Welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. I'm your host, Letitia Ringe, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone, and happy 2025. I'm Letitia Ringe, your coach. Welcome to a brand new season. I believe we're up to season 16 on the podcast. And most importantly, happy 7th birthday. That's right. It is now 7 years that we have been running Create a Life That Is Beautiful, the podcast. I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you listening to the podcast right now. Thank you for being committed to creating a life that is truly beautiful to you. Thank you for being here through all of the different iterations, explorations, and expressions of this intention to create a life that is beautiful. We talk about business, we talk about relationships, we talk about money, we talk about spirituality, manifestation, wealth, health, all the things that go into creating a life you love, enjoy, and are truly inspired by. And most importantly, we talk about coaching and personal development. This podcast has become a resource over the 7 years for people who work in the coaching and personal development industry. Not only does it help you to live the life you actually want, it also helps you to create and design businesses that allow you to thrive and also to truly operate at the best level you can across every area of your life. Most importantly, one of my favorite topics is the area of your relationships, and most specifically, your love life and romantic relationships. So that is a big, long introduction to letting you all know what our next season, this season on the podcast, is devoted to, and that is the topic of love and romantic relationship. I'm so excited to dive into this subject again, talk about conscious romantic relationships, and give you my perspective in 2025, now that it's been almost 2 years since I started sharing specifically about conscious romantic relationships with you all. I've worked with many people behind the scenes, singles and couples, on all phases of the romantic relationship cycle: dating, starting a new relationship, improving an existing relationship or marriage and nurturing it, uncoupling, deciding whether to leave a relationship, and healing after a relationship has ended. I don't talk a lot about the stories of my clients because I truly believe that they should be kept completely confidential, because when we talk about your love life and romantic relationships, that goes really deep, and I just don't feel comfortable sharing details that could make one of my clients feel like part of that really personal story is being shared publicly. I just don't like it, and so I don't do it. It's not great for business, but I want you to know I have helped people on all sorts of topics. Relationships involving infidelity, dating for the first time in their life, finding peace not being in a relationship from a serial relationship person, getting to the 2-year mark in a relationship and deciding, like, is this person really the one for me? Being in relationship for years and having the partner not actually showing up for the relationship, and then having to make the hard decision about whether this is truly the life and partnership they want. Setting a relationship up to truly thrive. Talking about sex and intimacy and how it can actually get better. Talking about different relationship structures. Even though personally I am a big advocate for monogamy, many of my clients fall outside of that in terms of their preferences, and that is okay too. No matter what their preference is, I'm going to make sure they're going to take it as deep as possible, because that is what we're all craving. So in this season of the podcast, we are now deep diving back into conscious romantic relationships. I want you to know that you're not going to find what you learn through my podcast and my work anywhere else. This is a unique approach to relationships. It's a highly intelligent approach for those of you who are already on the personal development and coaching path. So the people that I support, we talk at a high level. We're talking in also a grounded level with my family law background. And we're talking about both practical and also the aspects you can't see that have a really big impact on everything you do in your life, including your relationships. So this is really cutting edge material. It's here to help you create world-class relationships, and it's here to support those of you who are actually ready to dive into this work. You will be role models for the people in your life and around you. And it's to support you step up into something higher, to create a new standard for relationships, to show people what's possible. And you listening to this right now are the people to do that. And it doesn't matter whether you're single or in a relationship right now, wherever you are in your love life, the time to start is today, and it will impact every area of your life, including if you have one, a business. It will impact your health, your wealth, everything, because what shows up in your love life shows up in the other areas of your life too. When you have more energy because you're actually getting energy from your love life rather than it taking away from you, you have that energy to contribute to all the other areas of your life. And as we can see as a world right now, we need this support more than ever. We're constantly being separated in terms of gender identities. We're being separated in terms of relationship structures. We're being separated in terms of expectations for relationships. This has an impact on the ways we relate with one another outside of romantic relationships, the way we relate to each other as a world, politically, socially. We got to get it right in our homes first. You have to understand how to practice love and action, how to have respect and operate from a place of love and awareness with a partner so that you can bring that into the rest of your family, your friends, your peers, the people you work with, the people you interact with out in the world, the people you interact with across the globe. You got to start with your love life first. And we have to start by healing so many of the limiting expectations we have around relationships. So that is what this season of the podcast is for. And we'll be going back to deep dive into the 6 different phases of the relationship cycle so that practically each and every one of you are met in the current phase of your love life right now. If you're thinking this isn't for me, I don't need to know anything else, I've got a great relationship, I don't need any help, you probably need this the most. You should be working on your relationships. Just like anything else in life that you want to nurture and grow, you work on it, you tend to it, you nurture it. That is what I'm going to be giving you. And if you're open to learning, you're coming in with a beginner's mindset, you're ready to practice and embody the tools I teach, as well as have a look at the journal prompts I give you and actually respond to them, you will take your love life and your relationships and therefore your life to a whole other level. And it's really important for business because you're in relationship with your clients, your community, your team, your peers, your colleagues. If you want to know how to step up and be seen more, how to have a better business, relationships for sure should be front and center in your strategy. Now, before we dive into today's episode, which is all about conscious romantic relationships in 2025, I want to mention that for all of you who want my support on business, I have created a free 5-day mini course for you all called World Class. This is for women in business, and specifically I've designed it for women who work in the coaching and personal development industry. However, if your business falls outside of that, you can for sure take what I teach and apply it to your industry and your business. I recommend you go ahead right now, register for the course and complete the 5 trainings there as a priority, because the 5 trainings are taking you through the 5 pillars you need in your business strategy in order to create a holistic business that allows you to thrive and also positions your business to be world class. This is for you no matter where you are in your business journey right now, no matter how many clients you have, no matter how much success you perceive yourself as having, no matter how much money you're making. It is for you to support you in every single season of your business, whether it's a growth season or a maintenance season, no matter who you are. After 7+ years of supporting coaches and women who work in the personal development industry specifically, I have created this course to break down everything you need to pay attention to set yourself up to thrive in business, within yourself, and across your life. Please tell your friends about it and make sure you go ahead right now and register and complete the course at letitiaringe.com/worldclass. Without further ado, let's dive into our first episode in this brand new Relate Higher season on the podcast. Welcome to Relate Higher, a podcast dedicated to providing the leading standard in conscious higher relating and to teaching you a conscious framework for all of your relationships. This is your go-to resource for developing meaningful, conscious relationships across your life. I'm your host, award-winning relationship coach and consultant and former family lawyer, Letitia Ringe. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, welcome everyone to our first episode in this new Relate Higher season on the podcast. Now remember, relate higher is a verb to remind you in every single interaction you have with any other human being that you have a choice to relate higher. This means approach the interaction from a place of consciousness. Now, this is what I call conscious relationship. And in this particular season on the podcast, we'll be talking about conscious relationship in the context of romantic relationships and love. Now, I want you to get excited, to get motivated and activated for change. I want you to end these episodes knowing that you have the ability to create the kind of love and romantic partnership you desire. And it all happens through choosing to relate higher and take a conscious approach to your love life and romantic relationship. At the end of this episode, I'm going to leave you with journal prompts. These are coaching questions, powerful coaching questions that people pay me a lot of money to give them in a session and in between our sessions. And you're going to get some great coaching prompts at the end of this episode to integrate everything you learn in this episode and to take your romantic relationships and love life higher. So make sure you listen all the way to the end and then grab a journal or open up a document on your computer or phone and answer each of the questions. The wisdom is inside you. It just needs the questions, the powerful questions to access that wisdom. And if you love my approach to relationships, make sure you check out my Conscious Relationship Coaching Program. You can make an application to work with me in 2025, and I would absolutely love to support you as we go on a deep dive transformational experience in your romantic life. You can find all the details for that at letitiaringe.com/CRCP. Okay, so let's begin this episode with a little snapshot on how most people approach romantic relationships and their love life. First of all, there's generally a focus on all the things that they don't want in their love life and romantic relationship. We talk to our friends about it, we talk to our family about it, we talk to ourselves about it, we talk to our partners about it. And as we all know, as people who specialize in things like manifestation, this just creates more of what we don't want and puts the things we actually do want further away from us. So the way that we do this in regular life, it makes sense that it also shows up in our love life and romantic relationships. This is not what we want to do because in order to create change, we want to focus on how we can support that change. That will happen through focusing on what you actually want to create and paying less attention to the things that you don't want to create, while also taking responsibility for why they are showing up in your life. Because once again, remember, everything in your life is something that you are committed to on either a conscious or an unconscious level. So everything you're experiencing in your love life right now, your partner, if you have one, the issues you're facing, the people you're dating, the people you meet, absolutely everything is a reflection of what you are committed to on some level. The work I do with clients is primarily getting clear on what those commitments are and changing those commitments so they're actually in alignment with what they really deeply, truly want. This might sound simple to change, but it's actually one of the hardest things to do because of the way our brains and our mind work. Once something becomes a habit and then it's reinforced by our environment, i.e. all the other people around us, our family, our friends, our peers, everyone around us reinforcing the same thing, it becomes really difficult to escape our environment and those habits. And so it will be uncomfortable to change that. You will need new environment around you. You will need to break habits. You will need to build new habits. And that's why using a process like coaching or listening to a podcast like this is so incredibly powerful to activate your transformation. What I'm providing here is a new environment, new input, new motivation to actually make a change and choose the environment that you're focusing on and creating. Obviously, you've got to go deeper than actually just consuming information, and then you've actually got to put it into practice. That's why you've got the journal prompts at the end, and that's why you also have the ability to work with me if you'd like to, and or you can go ahead and complete Create Thriving Relationships today, which is my free bundle. It includes a masterclass, 3 embodiment exercises so that you actually practice conscious relationship work and learn from yourself and from experience. And it also gives you 20 additional self-coaching / journal prompts to ask yourself to create thriving relationships across your life today. Now, you can sign up for that at letitiaringe.com / thriving relationships. That is completely free, and it is something I recommend every single one of you complete if you love my approach to the topic of love and relationships. Okay, so we tend to focus on what we don't want, and we tend to push away what we do want through focusing on what we don't want as our priority. In addition, we have really silly beliefs like relationships should just work. We should just be able to go with the flow. There's a right person out there for me. If they were the right person, then we wouldn't be having these challenges. All of these stories lead to a naivety, an ignorance, and a passivity in your romantic relationships that is a recipe for disaster. While you might choose a person who is very compatible with you, that you will have an easier experience of relationship with, there will come a point in your relationship where you will have a challenge, because that is life, where you'll have a conflict, where it will be a sustained conflict. And if you haven't learned how to meet those situations, how to navigate communication and conflict when you're both not on the same page, how to navigate when you both grow in different directions, how to create connection when connection isn't easy, you will face difficulty. This happened to me in my 10-year relationship. I had a very healthy, secure, loving relationship. I started my conscious relationship work when I was in my early 20s. I entered a 10-year relationship very intentionally, manifesting. I had a very specific point of attraction. I created it. I went into the relationship fully trusting my partner, and so I got a partner who was fully trustworthy. We created a beautiful life and relationship together, and it was only in the last couple of years of our relationship where for the first time we experienced a major challenge and conflict where we were not on the same page. I felt like we'd grown apart. So did he. I got into spirituality and personal development throughout our relationship. I stopped being a lawyer. He was a lawyer. And so we just felt like we were growing apart. And because of these terrible messages that there's a right person out there, if they were the right person, we wouldn't have these challenges. We should just be able to go with the flow. When we had these difficulties, he and I both tapped into the common viewpoint on relationships, and we believed, well, this just means we're not right for each other. Now I know better, but it took me from experiencing that relationship, uncoupling from that relationship consciously, and then doing the self-reflection work over the last 3 years since that relationship ended to really understand that that was not actually our problem. What we needed were more skills. And so that's why I've devoted my time, my energy, my resources, and now my work to creating a process to support people have a strong foundation for their relationship and a process to follow, as well as support for when these issues arise. If I could turn back time, I would not have approached the end of our relationship in the way that I did. In fact, I would not have chosen to end the relationship, though it was the right thing to happen in order to access this next level within my own relationship repertoire. And I'm saying this is a perspective from someone who specializes in relationships, who has done the conscious relationship work, who has invested a lot of money working with coaches and being supported when it comes to taking responsibility and self-awareness and all of these things. And even with all of that experience and support around me, the environment around me and those habituated thought processes got us. And so I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you, not on my watch. Actually, a lot of people come to me because they want to decide whether they want to leave a relationship, and they know if they're not meant to be in that relationship, I'm going to help them make that really difficult decision. But I will always fight first for every single client I work with and their current relationship, because I know that if you just make some changes to support the relationship to thrive, then if you still don't want to be in that relationship, you will be coming from an empowered, fully informed place to make that decision, rather than coming from a place of lack where the relationship isn't thriving because it's not supported in the way that it needs to, and then making a decision from that place, which ultimately usually leads to regret once the relationship is ended and a lot of hurt and pain as a result. So the way most people approach relationships is we focus on what we don't want, we focus less on what we actually want. We have these really limiting narratives that tell us that we shouldn't need to work on relationships, we shouldn't need to have support, there shouldn't be challenges. And then on top of this, we have a lot of very well practiced and for the most part unprocessed emotions about relationships. And these show up on the topic of love, abandonment, betrayal, gender, family, parents, caregivers, former partners, exes, all of our experiences with anyone who represents someone who you could be in a relationship with or who has modeled being in a romantic relationship with. We have a lot of emotions tied to those memories. And so when we're in relationship or dating someone else or healing from a relationship that we have completed, not only are we experiencing an emotion triggered in that moment to deal with the current situation in front of us, we also have all of this baggage. And I'm sorry, but if you have chosen not to be in relationship because, you want to sort that out first before you get into a relationship, you will still have all of this baggage, because one of the places where the baggage is actually processed is when it's triggered. And that happens in relationship. So you need to learn how to manage those triggers when you're actually in the relationship so they can be processed. And we don't do this outside of relationship. Now, on top of this, the way we generally approach romantic relationships is we also pressure people when they're young to couple. When I was in my early 20s, I was being pressured to get into a long-term relationship. Now, this was great because that's what activated me to do the conscious relationship work and to find out how to clean up my patterns and how to actually change my point of attraction, how to move from unconscious to conscious commitment, which has hugely set me up for life. But it also meant that I made being in a romantic relationship one of my number one priorities at such an early age. My advice to young people now is to wait until they're about 30 years old before they get serious, though being serious is not the best place to manifest from, but before they really prioritize creating a long-term partnership. And the reason for this is just based on our society today and our level of development, we are not maturing as quickly as what we did in the past. And so even at like age 25, you're just like a child still. You're still learning about the world. You're immature. You don't have a fully developed understanding of yourself. That tends to happen around age 27. I like to look at a person's Saturn return as when they really get their initiation into themselves and their life. So my advice is to start looking for someone once you've been through that so that you can choose someone who's compatible with your outlook on life, your way of living, and also your vision for the future. And if you do that, you're actually more likely to meet the person earlier because you're not focused on creating that so soon. So I know that there are factors to take into account when it comes to having children, and you may wish to create a relationship before that. But for the most part, I believe that it is safe to be waiting until your late 20s or 30 years old to start that process. And that actually for most people, you'll end up meeting someone sooner and with a lot more joy around it anyway through approaching it in this way. Now, this pressure to couple young is reinforced all around us. Like, just look at Disney movies. Look at everything you watch as a kid. It's just all about love. And especially for girls and women, we are absolutely obsessed. I remember when I was at school, I was just boy crazy. All I could ever think about were boys, 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 boys. I always wanted a boyfriend. I just wanted someone to love me. I wanted to feel safe and secure in a relationship. And so romantic relationship was truly my priority throughout my life. And as I look at since I was an adult and all the adult years I've lived up until now, I calculated that I've spent about 90% of my adult years in romantic relationship, which is why over the past year, my work became really sitting in being consciously single, sitting outside of relationship for an even more than I've done in the past extended period of time to really, really develop a more whole and complete relationship with myself before I entered back into dating. And to enter back into dating with a slightly different perspective as a result of that extended time being consciously single and with the level of awareness and experience I now have. Okay, so there's that pressure to couple young, and then there's also this idea that commitment means we're exclusive and that's it. But what are we actually committing to as a couple? What's the vision? What's the outlook? What are our values? How are we going to resolve conflict as it comes up? What are the skills we're going to use to support the relationship? When we get married, what is our vision for the marriage? What is our vision for parenting? What is our vision for family? What is our vision for life? Like, what are we creating together? Very few people have these conversations, and that's why we end up with varied results when it comes to fulfillment. This makes sense because we don't do this for ourselves mostly, so why would we do it for our relationship? So being really clear on what you're committing to and what your intentions are is something I teach as a priority in terms of conscious relationship work, which we'll talk more about. Now, also in the general dialogue around relationships, we now have an obsession with couples therapy and also therapy generally, as well as attachment styles. Now, this is great, right? Because it's definitely progress, but there are a couple of problems with this. First of all, we tend to create an identity around attachment styles. So we decide, hey, I've learned about the different attachment styles and this is my one. And now I'm going to frame all of my interactions with other humans through that lens and make it an identity where I further reinforce that particular attachment style. Actually, different people will trigger different attachment styles for many people. Different phases of the romantic relationship cycle may also trigger different attachment styles within you. We're also told that attachment styles are kind of just what they are, and you can have tools to support you be more secure, but you can't change. And I truly don't believe that, because I really believe you can change anything, especially when you know how to work with yourself on a conscious and an unconscious level. So that identity around attachment styles is a problem. Then we've got therapy. Therapy is amazing. I think everyone should probably do it. Obviously, not all therapists are made the same. And also, when someone uses the word therapist, that can mean lots of different things. For instance, you could be a massage therapist. It doesn't mean you're necessarily a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And also, being a psychologist and a psychiatrist doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to know more and be the best person within that field. For instance, I did psychology at university for 2 out of the 3 years. I chose not to continue because I did not agree with what I was being taught. I wanted to learn how to support humans through a different perspective. So I didn't resonate with my particular university degree on the topic of psychology. And so I've equipped myself with many other certifications as a result. And also, of course, my own life experience and experience working and supporting people in this area. So there's that. And then there's also, you're just going to bond with different people in different ways. So you might need to work with a couple of therapists or many therapists before you find your person. And you may need to work with therapists at different points in life. And then there are different kinds of therapists. One of the best kinds of therapy that I've found is somatic therapy, because it's going to work with your body, which is going to help you on an unconscious level. But again, not all therapists are made the same. So you need to find what works for you. Now, my problem with therapy is that people do it. Maybe they do it for 6 months and then they think, well, problem should be solved, right? Or you do therapy for years and years and years and years, and you're still not seeing any actual change in your behavior. Yes, you've got more awareness of why you are the way you are. You've got more understanding and self-compassion, but you actually haven't stepped into change. This is why I believe coaching is so powerful and should be part of any therapeutic process, and or is the follow-up after a therapeutic process, so that you go from awareness, which is the first part of the transformation cycle, into actually moving into transformation, right? Which is about, okay, now I want to be clear on what I actually want to create, how I want to be different, how I want to relate with the world and my partners and other people and everything in my life differently, because I understand I'm a powerful human who can create whatever I want. I can break free of my habits and of the past. I don't want to keep enabling that identity. This is where you start visualizing what you want for your future. Clarity. That's the second phase of the transformation process. Then you're going into realignment, where you're actually going to be in the messy middle, learning new skills. This is the hardest part, and that's where a coaching process can really support you until you get to the fourth phase, where you embody your new ways of operating in the world. That's transformation. It's not being stuck in the same place for years and years and years. And it's also not just being aware of why you are the way you are. So that's my problem with therapy, because it is not the solution to change and transformation. And oftentimes, I've seen so many people who've seen therapists for years, like 5 to 10 years, and they still have not changed the things that they would like to change, because they're still talking about the past and have created an identity around that. So unfortunately, we have to advocate for ourselves, which means you've got to go out and educate yourself on these things and then find the people who can support you. That is something I help my clients to do in my Conscious Relationship Coaching program. Okay, a couple of other examples I'll mention here before we move on. So when it comes to how most people talk about and perceive romantic relationships, we also currently have a conversation going on about relationship structures. Should we be monogamous? Should we be polyamorous? Should we be open, ethical non-monogamy? Which is better? I've got a big problem with this, because it doesn't matter what the relationship structure is ultimately. If you don't know how to support yourself to thrive in romantic partnership, those problems are going to show up no matter what the structure is. And if you've got those problems and you keep swapping out the person you're in a relationship with, or you open yourself up to having multiple relationships at one time, it's like in business, having a funnel that doesn't work and you're pouring more people through it. What's that creating for you? Just more results of it not working. So I say, let's just move that conversation to the side, especially with where we're at in terms of our level of awareness as humans. we're just not ready to have that conversation. Let's first focus on actually learning the basic skills that are needed to have relationships that thrive. Let's implement that. Let's go through the whole transformation process. Let's embody it. Let's have it down pat. And then and only then, after many years of practicing this, because that's how long it will take, you can then ask yourself, what relationship structure is best for me? Personally, I am a big advocate for monogamy, although I work with many clients who are not monogamous, and I love to support them as well. The reason I like monogamy is I believe in focus. I believe this in business too. I recommend that you have one offer in your business. I like focus because it allows you to go deeper into that particular relationship or that particular offer. It allows you to be truly world class at that relationship, at that offer. When we start opening up to more people, it just scatters our attention and focus across multiple people or multiple offers, which means our attention and energy is diluted in some way. So I see monogamy as a much easier path to creating the thriving partnership we desire. However, I'm open to having different preferences when it comes to relationship structures. I just don't think that that's where our attention should be, particularly at this level of maturity we're at when it comes to relationships and basic relationship skills to set our relationships up to thrive. Now, you'll also hear that we should be better at relationships if we're conscious, or we should be better at relationships if we're coaches, if we're people who work in personal development. We should be better at relationships if we're people who specialize in relationships. I don't know if you noticed this, but in the couples counseling and like relationship therapy space, there's much less conversation around the actual relationships of the people who do this work. And I think that's actually a good thing. You know, with coaching, we tend to share more about our personal experiences, and you know so much more about the person who is your coach. I personally now think that that's generally a good approach because there should be separation between your own experiences and those personal stories to you and the work that you do. And so you've probably noticed over the last number of years, I have moved away from sharing more about my personal life to focusing more on the actual work and really putting my focus there because I didn't feel like it was best serving me to continue sharing about my personal life so much. And also it took away from actually focusing on the tools themselves. Now, at the same time, I think it's also really important to know a little bit about the person you're working with and their perspective on relationships and also a little bit about their experience. Something that really concerned me when I was watching the industry over the last couple of years is particularly in the area of dating. There were dating coaches teaching women particularly how to date in order to get a man, but they themselves had never had a long-term relationship. And I found this really troubling because there is a difference between dating to go on as many dates as possible and dating to create a thriving long-term relationship. If you're dating to create a thriving long-term relationship versus I'm dating to get as many dates as possible, that is a very different way of approaching dating, and it's going to lead to very different outcomes. I personally do not see what the point of dating is if it's not going to actually create what you want to create. So I was a little concerned there to find that the person helping with the dating had not had actual experience of building a long-term relationship and therefore knows firsthand the challenges and also what is required. So for me, I think it's really important to also look at, yes, who you're getting the advice from, the experiences they've had, what their values are around what they're teaching, and also at the same time, not to be requiring the people you work with to share all of their details about their relationships or put them on a pedestal that they'll be perfect, because we're all human and that's just not going to happen. I have relationship challenges. Every person who works in this industry has relationship challenges. And you know what we do? We go and get ourselves support and we learn new skills to overcome those challenges. That's it. You can never escape the fact that you're going to have challenges. It's kind of like, again, in business or in personal development, you think, oh, I'm doing the personal development work, or I'm doing the business skills, or I'm working with a coach on these. So that means I should never, ever have any problems again, right? This is a perfectionist mindset, and it's why a lot of us get into coaching and personal development, because we don't want to have problems anymore. We want to avoid pain. But what will actually show you that you've achieved transformation and developed yourself personally and are in the best place you can be is when you learn. It's not about escaping challenges or avoiding pain. It's about learning to accept challenges and accept pain and be able to be with them just as well as you're able to be with the joy, the positive experiences, and when everything feels like it's in flow. That is actually the result you want from doing this personal development work. And it's the same in the relationship space. So if you're someone who works in the coaching and personal development industry, or even in the relationship and dating space, I want you to know that it is okay to get support. And in fact, that shows you leading in what you're doing. Okay? So don't let that be something that you're ashamed about. And you're the kind of people I absolutely love supporting, because you're most likely to be a relational leader, and we really need that. And finally, some other very common narratives we share with each other that sets us up for failure in romantic relationships include the following. This is just how relationships are. They're just like a pain in our butt. We'll stay together until the kids move out. I don't have any other options. And compromise is just normal on big things that really mattered to me. Or how about this one? It's just normal that sex and intimacy dwindles over time. Notice how all of these statements do not lead to any immediate solutions. None of them lead you to actually taking action to make things better. And that's why you stay stuck in the same place, and over time your level of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment continues to increase, and your ability to remain and sustain that unfulfillment begins to lower until you get to a breaking point where you decide, you know what, I've had enough. I'm out of here. Someone does it. Or you just sort of die a slow death where you become more and more numb in the relationship, and you're like, hey, this is just how it is. And so there's this huge part of me that is no longer alive, no longer contributing energy to the relationship, to my life, to myself. Your life force is lowered. This is not where we want to be. Okay, so now we can see through all of these examples I've given you through today's episode that there is so much going on within our inner environment, our habits, in terms of emotions, our thoughts, as well as our behaviors in relationships, as well as in our external environment with all the people around us, television, movies, marketing, all of the things happening that then reinforce these limiting negative stories about relationships that keep us trapped in a limited experience of relationships, that keeps us wanting more, but truly believing that more is not possible. This is what my work is for. It is to help you transform and change that external environment as well as that internal environment. And the way that we do that is through my conscious relationship approach. Now, there are a few things you need to know about conscious relationships in order to understand what this framework, model, and approach is that I teach and support my clients and all of you listening to this podcast with to help you create thriving relationships. The first thing you need to know is what the goal is that we're working towards. The goal is this: you create thriving romantic relationships that turn you on, that support your purpose and potential, and that allow both you and your partner to thrive. And the philosophy is, it doesn't matter where you are right now in your love life or in your romantic relationship, whether you're in one or whether you're single, whether you've just completed a relationship and you're healing from it, or whether you're starting a new relationship, or whether you've been with a partner for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. The time to start changing your patterns, changing your inner environment as well as your external environment input is now. And you have a major impact on your experience of relationships through choosing to consciously approach the phase of the relationship cycle you're in right now. Over the next 6 episodes, I'm going to be deep diving into each of these phases. I recommend you at least listen to the phase you're in right now, as well as the phase you want to be in, and any of the phases in between where that is and where you want to be. This is going to help you understand how to approach each phase of the relationship cycle consciously so that you can have the best experience possible of that phase and therefore set you up to have the experience of romantic partnership you desire. So there's that. The second thing you need to know is that a conscious romantic relationship, and the way that I teach it, which as I've told you before, is a unique way of teaching on relationships as well as on the topic of conscious relationship, is all about taking a conscious approach. Conscious means 3 things. It means you're moving from love rather than fear. Fear is our default, unconscious, protective way of operating in the world in regards to absolutely anything, and that includes in relation to love and romantic relationships. So we want to move from fear to love. That requires you to be conscious. This is why I use the term relate higher. In a moment when you can come to a place of consciousness and remind yourself you have a choice, this is your trigger to move from love rather than fear. And the only way you get there is because you're conscious that right now, I am not moving from love, I am moving from fear. Now you have the option to choose. The second quality you need to embody in order to take a conscious approach to your love life and romantic relationships so that you can create world-class romantic relationships that allow you to thrive is that you move with an expanded awareness. This is what I call relational awareness, and it includes being aware of yourself, i.e. self-awareness, being aware of your partner or the other person that you're relating with, and also being aware of the relationship itself. There is you, the other person, and the relationship in all interactions in terms of love. And it is very, very likely that what each of these 3 different entities actually need and want are all different. So how do you make decisions that account for all of these different needs and desires? You won't be able to make great decisions or set clear intentions or know what to do on a day-to-day basis to allow you all to thrive unless you are aware of these 3 things in any relationship and at any stage of the relationship cycle. So learning how to expand your capacity for awareness is about training and practice, because the reason we don't have this awareness is because we are not trained to be able to meet truth without reacting. If our partner is saying something we don't want to hear, we go into a protective pattern, we stop listening, and we disconnect from each other, and then someone compromises and you come up with a solution that doesn't actually meet both of your needs. This is what most people are doing in relationships. One person develops a bigger capacity to settle in the relationship. This is not what creates thriving relationships. It's about being able to come up with third place solutions that enable each of the 3 entities in the relationship to thrive. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds impossible, Letitia, because your inner and outer environment has told you that for all of your life up until now. But what I want you to know is that anything is possible. And when you actually lean in to the circumstances that you're facing, i.e. this person, and the relationship's needs and desires, and then you're able to accept each of those, you will come up with new innovative solutions that actually allow all of you to thrive. This is what is needed in all relationships. So awareness is one of the other qualities to a conscious romantic relationship. The third quality that is required is moving with intention. To create anything in life, to consciously manifest, you must be backed by a clear intention. Now, it doesn't matter how many details the intention has. It doesn't matter what the intention is. All that matters is that you have one. When you have a clear intention, it allows you to then make decisions throughout your day-to-day life that enables you to move towards that intention, to embody that intention. Now, you can create whatever relationship you want. Your version of thriving will be different to mine. It is important that you understand what your intentions are so that you have a compass pointing you in the direction of what you want. When opportunities present themselves that don't seem like they're taking you in that direction, but you've got a strong intuition to move in that direction, and there's a lot of flow pushing you somewhere, and you know that you're clear on your intention, you trust that you're always being guided towards it, you will be able to embrace unexpected opportunities that will actually get you to where you want to go sooner. So, a conscious approach to anything, including romantic relationships, and the way that I define it is through these three qualities. You will be conscious when you're moving from love, when you're moving with awareness, expanded relational awareness, and when you are moving with intention. This is what I train my clients to do, and it's what I'm teaching here on the podcast. I've also already dedicated a whole season to the topic of conscious romantic relationships, what this actually means, how to embody the qualities, how to create, how to start, how to practice a conscious relationship, and I highly recommend you go back and check that out. Now, the second aspect of my conscious relationship work includes my conscious relationship framework. So in order to approach your relationship consciously, there are three different pillars we need to look at. The first is you want to make sure that you are creating a conscious relationship with whoever you're relating with. This requires you to understand what a conscious relationship looks like in practice. I created a tool and a process that I call the conscious relationship container that allows you to learn the skills to be in a conscious relationship and to do that through a monthly process that you will use in a relationship so that it becomes second nature, so that you're actually being proactive in your relationship, so that you're actively learning and embodying and deepening into the skills required to set yourselves up for success month on month. You would apply this to a current relationship if you're in one, and if you're not in one, you would learn this process yourself so that when you enter into a relationship next, you've got the tools ready and the process to support your relationship. This means you don't need to think about what tool should I draw on given this immediate situation we're in right now. No, you and your partner will be walked through a process that you'll use every single month that will become second nature, and that is what will set you up for an amazing, thriving, world-class relationship over time. So that's the first pillar, your conscious relationship with you and your partner. The second pillar is you need to have a conscious relationship with yourself. This is about increasing your own self-awareness of your protective patterns, your unmet childhood needs and how to actually meet them, your relationship history, your needs and desires, your capacity, your general life fulfillment. I've also done an entire season on the podcast all about creating a conscious relationship with yourself and doing the work on your end, whether you're in a relationship right now or not. So I highly recommend you also go back and check out that season of the podcast. Now, the third pillar is all about approaching the phase of the relationship cycle you're in right now consciously. There is an unconscious / default / inverted commas normal way to approach each phase of the relationship cycle that most people use when they're in that cycle, and that leads to really low results and a low experience of that particular phase. For instance, think about the way most people talk about their exes or talk about uncoupling or talk about dating. It's often super negative, and it also just creates more separation and division between us, which then affects your relationship with future people you enter into partnership with. It's like we're on opposing teams rather than this is someone that you've shared an intimate connection with. There should be love and respect, and there should be love and respect throughout the process, no matter where you are. Life is difficult. We go through difficult, challenging experiences. We're not always operating at our best, and we've got to have compassion for our own humanity within each other as well as ourselves. So learning how to approach where you are right now in your relationship journey and approaching it consciously sets you up to experience your best experience of that phase. And it also sets you up to start practicing conscious relationship skills now and also position yourself for the thriving, baggage-free, as best as it can be, relationship experience you desire. So they are the 3 pillars. 1, the conscious relationship. 2, your conscious relationship with yourself. And 3, approaching wherever you are right now in your relationship journey consciously. And I'll be delivering 6 episodes coming up all about these 6 different phases. And you can also go back to the first season I did all about conscious romantic relationships because I have already talked to each of these 6 phases there. Now, the next aspect of my conscious relationship work is my conscious relationship coaching program. This is where I work with couples or individuals through my conscious relationship process. This is where we go through a 6-month deep dive transformational coaching experience to help you move from a place of unconscious commitment in relationships to conscious commitment. This is where you learn to transmute protective patterns that are getting in the way of what you want and also actually get clear on what you really want. Now, most of you think you know what you want in your relationships, but a lot of this is coming from protective patterns and fear, rather than from a place where you have dealt with those protective patterns, where you have neutralized that fear, and then you're asking yourself what you actually want. And it comes from a place of love and abundance, a conscious place. Then we get to work moving through the 4-part transformation cycle: awareness, clarity, realignment, and embodiment, so that you are developing a new inner environment around relationships and also, of course, creating a new chosen external environment so that you're setting yourself up for success. You're learning the conscious relationship skills that you need to support you in the current phase of the relationship cycle you're in right now. And you're also learning the conscious relationship skills that you need to support you to create a conscious relationship, one that is uniquely customized to suit you. This is truly life-changing work. It impacts not only your love life, it also impacts every other relationship in and across your life, as well as all the other areas to your life. I truly believe that this is the number one work we all need to do. And so many of the people I work with have been struggling with the things that we overcome in this program for years. It's so interesting. When you're in a place that feels really, really terrible, that's when we're more likely to go and get ourselves support. Like, for instance, when I was a family lawyer, my clients would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees in order to be in a lengthy dispute with their ex-partner. Now, none of that process actually solved or gave them the skills they need so that that same disconnection and dispute that they have with their partner never happens again. And yet, when things are good, we think, oh, hey, I've got it covered. Nothing's going wrong, so I don't need support. But unless you've done this work before, this is the work that is needed. And it is an investment into your future that safeguards you from having to go through lengthy dispute processes like this, whether it's through legal proceedings that actually cost you money or whether it's through emotionally drawn out separation processes. And while the cost of these two things are so significant, neither of those take into account the true cost and loss to you of never experiencing the true potential of your relationship. So most people will wait until something goes really, really wrong, and then it ends up taking a much longer process. There's so much more to work through. And in relationships, this can often look like working on it at separation. When someone is really, really angry and resentful by that stage, they don't want to work on it. It leads to messy divorces, messy separations, or just something that is incredibly painful for both people, and it's really hard to approach consciously. Instead of doing that, what you can do is be proactive. Understand that we all have our stuff to work on and that there's always more potential within you as an individual, just like there is within your relationship. And if you don't keep moving towards that potential, things will get stale. You'll feel unfulfilled, dissatisfied, and those feelings are really just your trigger to go and get support. But you don't even need to wait for those feelings. You can recognize that because this is an area of your life that you care about, because of the huge impact and potential it has on the rest of your life, you do the work to take action now to support yourself, to set yourself up to thrive. And that's what my Conscious Relationship Coaching Program is for. If you want to know more about that, again, you can submit an application, then we'll get on a call to talk about exactly what your situation looks like. I'll then be able to give you all of the details about exactly what we'll be working on together. And from there, you can make a decision about whether you want to proceed with working together in a coaching capacity. Head to leticiaringe.com/CRCP. Okay, so that is what it means in summary to be in a conscious romantic relationship. We're coming from love, awareness, and intention. We're looking at the relationship between you and a partner. We're looking at your relationship with yourself, and you're approaching each phase of the relationship cycle consciously. You're doing the work to look at your protective patterns, your unconscious commitments, and to transmute those patterns and commitments to create a new inner and external environment that is supportive of you and your partner thriving. When we do this, we bring all of the available energy we could be generating within a relationship and within our love life, and we bring that back to ourselves and to the rest of our life. Now, to wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you excited, motivated, and activated for change. You get to create whatever you want. So when it comes to relationships, we want the best in most areas of our lives. Why wouldn't we want the best from our romantic relationships too? Remember that stories that we tell ourselves, like, this is just how relationships are, mean that you end up being passive about your romantic relationships and not giving it the support, the love, and the attention that they need to thrive. Remember that being the best requires new skills, support, intention, awareness, and of course, love. When we tell ourselves stories like, it would just work if it was with the right person, again, this leads us to looking for the wrong thing. We look for the right person rather than the right skills and support to support our relationships to thrive. Remember that looking around and learning from the status quo and the people around you, the average person, isn't where you'll find the answers. But everyone in your life for sure will have an opinion about what you should do. Remember to be really intentional about whose opinion you take on, and remember that you're unlikely to find it in examples of people who aren't thriving in romantic relationship, which is your average person. And that includes many of the people you possibly even look up to who you think have it all figured out, who are actually not satisfied in their romantic partnership. Remember that changing anything is hard, and changing relationship beliefs, habits, behaviors, and feelings is even harder because you have been ingraining those into your system since you were a child, and then they're reinforced around you through your external environment everywhere you go. Even though it's hard, remember that it's worth it. The impact of changing and supporting and creating what you really desire in terms of your romantic life and love life is worth it because of the impact it has on you, the rest of your life, and also your experience of love. And remember that our world needs this. We need better relationships, and we need more relational leaders who are going to show us what's possible. Remember that if it were easy, it doesn't mean that that makes it right, okay? I think a lot of us believe this, especially those of you who like to follow the flow and follow your intuition. And so we then expect that if it's the right path, it means it will just be easy. But I don't know about you, but so many of the places my intuition has led me to has not been easy. It's been super, super challenging for my mind because it goes against what my body and mind is programmed for. That is what makes it hard. So actually, when something's hard, I generally know I'm on the right path. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it won't be worth it. It will. So practice, and over time, it will get easier. And just allow those changes the time they need to be embodied. It's not a one and done thing. You might get there and then you'll fall back. What you want to do is keep practicing, keep at it, and know that this process can take years, and it will be something you'll need to continue to support and nurture beyond that. Finally, know that your entire experience of relationships, your point of reference when you think about love, when you think about romance, when you think about partnership, can change today, no matter where you are. It all starts with that one step you can take today. You've already taken the step to listen to this podcast. This is giving you new input to create a positive external environment for you, which will hopefully motivate you to start looking at your inner environment and start noticing where things are off in terms of what you actually want to create and experience. You need to then take the next step. So go ahead, and when I give you the journal prompts, make sure you actually answer them. And through accessing your own answers, your own inner wisdom that are triggered through asking yourself the questions I'm going to give you, then ask yourself, what is one step, one change I can make today? And start there. Deferring this to sometime in the future, like so many of us defer it to the future. We say, oh, I'll work on it when I'm in a relationship, or I'll work on it when I start dating, or I'll work on it once I've left this relationship. I'll work on it once things improve in our relationship. No, the time to work on it is now. It's like saying your diet starts tomorrow. All of your power is in the now. You deserve a thriving romantic partnership that turns you on, supports your purpose and potential, and allows both you and your partner to thrive. This is where it all begins. So, finally, my journal prompts for you all to integrate what we've learned today. First question, how active am I in creating the love and romantic partnership I deeply desire, and what does this look like? 2, what have I done to date to intentionally learn and practice new skills to support my romantic relationships? And how does this compare to other areas of my life? 3, what am I really wanting and craving in romantic relationship? How do I step in my own way creating this? 4, what would approaching my relationships consciously look like? And how is this different to what I am doing now? Now, remember, if you want to know more about my conscious relationship process and how to create thriving relationships today, including your romantic partnerships, make sure you've downloaded my free community bundle at letitiaringe.com/thriving relationships. This is called Create Thriving Relationships Today. It includes a 75-minute masterclass, 3 embodiment exercises so you can actually learn from your own experience, and 20 self-reflection coaching prompts so that you can access that inner wisdom. If you're listening to this episode and you love my approach on relationships, make sure you download that, as it has been created intentionally to support you to go deeper into this material. And of course, if you want to find out about working with me one-to-one or with a partner, head to letitiaringe.com/CRCP. All right, my beautiful friends, I'm going to leave it here. I'll see you in our next episode, which will be dealing with one of the first phases in the romantic relationship cycle. I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive our community newsletter. Subscribe at letitiaringe.com/newsletter. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to join us in creating a life that is beautiful.